The rescue ship Mercy's hand drifted through the debris field of what had once been a Krelvik trafficking vessel. Sydney moved through the wreckage with practiced caution, her scanner sweeping for life signs among the twisted metal and shattered cages. Sector 3 clear. Simon's voice crackled through her comm. Moving to Sector 4, Sydney acknowledged with a click, her eyes scanning the darkness. They'd been partners for 2 years now, part of the Interstellar Rescue Coalition humans who'd made it their mission to clean up the galaxy's ugliest corners. Most species thought them mad. Humans had only been spacefaring for 70 years, yet here they were, diving into places even the Galactic Council's enforcers feared to tread. Her scanner pinged. Faint, but definitely organic. Sydney followed the signal through a collapsed corridor, squeezing through gaps that would have been impossible for the larger species. Another human advantage: they were small, flexible, persistence hunters who never knew when to quit. The source of the signal made her stomach clench. A cage, barely 3 feet across, held a creature no bigger than a large dog. Its fur was matted with dried blood and filth. Cybernetic implants crudely grafted along its spine, the hallmarks of a Krelvik fighting animal. But this was no adult fighter. This was a cub, perhaps only months old. When Sydney approached, the creature's lips pulled back, revealing rows of needle-sharp teeth. A growl rumbled from its chest, deep and primal, a sound that said, "Stay away or I will hurt you." Sydney stopped. She'd seen this before, trauma so deep that kindness itself became a threat. "Simon," she said quietly into her comm. "I've got a live one. Juvenile Zerati, heavily modified. Bringing the Zerati rehabilitation specialist?" "Negative," Simon replied. "Specialist was injured in the last op. Still in medical, of course." Sydney studied the cub. Zerati were rare, their homeworld remote, and their people peaceful. For a cub to end up here, in a fighting ring, meant someone had stolen it from its family. The cybernetics meant torture, conditioning, forced aggression. Every species in the coalition had protocols for this. The Zenthri would have sedated it immediately. The Quillans would have called for containment. Even other humans might have reached for a tranquilizer. Sydney sat down. She didn't speak, didn't reach for the cage, didn't make any attempt to override the lock or assess the cub's injuries. She simply sat, 3 feet away, and waited. The growling continued, rising and falling like a broken alarm. The cub's eyes, 6 of them, ranged in pairs along its elongated skull, never left her. Sydney could see the muscles bunched beneath matted fur, ready to strike if she gave even the slightest provocation. Minutes passed, then 10, then 20. "Sydney." Simon's voice was concerned now. "Status? Working on it," she murmured. She knew the other species found human patience bizarre. They were so efficient, so quick to act. But humans understood something others often didn't. Sometimes the kindest thing you could do was nothing at all. The cub's growling faltered. Its eyes, wild with fear and pain, darted around the wreckage as if expecting other threats. When none came, when Sydney remained still and silent, something shifted in its posture. Sydney slowly, glacially slowly, turned her head to look at the wall instead of directly at the cub. A non-threat, an animal that wasn't hunting, wasn't challenging, wasn't demanding anything. Another 10 minutes crawled by. The growling stopped. Sydney remained motionless, breathing slowly, letting the silence speak for her. In that silence was a promise. "I will not hurt you. I will not force you. I will simply be here." The cub moved. Sydney didn't react, though every instinct screamed to look. She heard the soft scrape of claws on metal, the whisper of fur against the cage bars. Then warmth pressed against her leg. The cub had pushed itself against the cage wall, pressing as close to Sydney as the bars would allow. Its body trembled, not with aggression now, but with something else entirely. Relief, perhaps, or the desperate, aching need for comfort from something that didn't hurt. Sydney's hand moved with the speed of continental drift, coming to rest gently on the bars. The cub didn't growl. Instead, it pressed harder against her hand, a soft keening sound emerging from its throat. "I've got you," Sydney whispered. "You're safe now." She worked the cage lock one-handed, never pulling away from the contact the cub so desperately needed. When the door opened, she expected the creature to bolt or attack. Instead, it crawled into her lap and curled against her chest. its 6 eyes finally closing. Simon found her like that 30 minutes later, sitting in the wreckage with a traumatized alien predator sleeping in her arms. "How did you?" he started. "She needed someone who wouldn't try to fix her right away," Sydney said softly, stroking the cub's blood-matted fur. "Someone who could just be there." Simon nodded, understanding in his eyes. This was what humans brought to the galaxy, not superior weapons or faster ships or more advanced technology. They brought patience born of their own long history of trauma and healing. They brought the understanding that sometimes the strongest thing you could do was nothing at all. As they carried the sleeping cub back to Mercy's hand, Sydney thought about the reports they'd send to the council. Another species would write about extraction protocols and veterinary procedures. The humans would write about the power of silence and the courage it took to simply wait. The galaxy was slowly learning what that meant.